awesome.
Can't wait. Everything you just said is great. Having children that are playing sports in high school and one that's in college, and the coaches and administrators have no idea what it means to a parent to see the discipline that they're giving them outside of the home, and just what sports means in general for where they are now, but that will mold them for the rest of their lives. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for giving us this opportunity to connect, and look forward to, and asking and getting into diving into some deep conversations together.
Sure.
But to start off, my first question is, growing up, did you have an interest in sports personally or within your family?
Yes, I mean, sports has been and still is a part of my life. My immediate family growing up, the extended family. Yeah, so I first started out playing, I guess, softball when I was the age of 5. And then when I was in 5th grade, I was given the opportunity to try out for the boys team. And how that happened was my mom's oldest sister, Jill Upton, she was a phenomenal basketball player herself. And then she was a college coach. And in 1971, she won the first women's NCAA national title. And that granted her the honor to coach the U.S. World Team in 1973 that went to Moscow, Russia. And they won the silver, and many of you probably know the name Pat Summitt. She was on my aunt's team. So in 5th grade, she asked me, was I going to try out for basketball? And I said, they don't have a girls team. And she said, well, go out for the boys team. So I did. Basketball carried me all the way through, and there is an employee of BSN, Jay Walton, that's in the Nashville area. I played with him on that boys team, and he asked me to prom. He's the only guy I've ever been able to wear heels with and wasn't taller than. So if Jay's on the call, hey Jay, you may get more shout outs. But I played basketball and softball throughout high school, went on and played college basketball at the University of Mobile, and then went into a men's church league after that. And after I was kicked off of that because I was a girl, that's what sprung me into officiating football, just by chance.
That is incredible. And I'd love to hear what lessons from growing up in that unique environment, do you think it still impacts you and how you approach your work today?
It absolutely does. If it hadn't been for the teammates that I had, making me tougher, the coaches that challenged me whenever I didn't think I could be pushed anymore, and a valuable lesson I learned by the coaches, I was always told when a coach stops talking to you, then you have nothing left to offer. So I tried to tell my kids, as long as they're chewing on you, then they see something in you. And that definitely has carried over into my world of officiating, because your mentors, your supervisors, being graded after every game, the constructive criticism, the calls that they call and say, hey, great job here, but think about this, or those things have definitely carried over into my professional career with the NFL.
That's amazing. What made you take interest, first of all, in becoming a referee?
So honestly and truly, I hated officials when I was playing sports, and I'm sure they hated me. I was that player that would push every limit possible. I'd get the 4 fouls in basketball and, do whatever I could, try not to get the 5th. But yeah, so I just, it's just with the officiating and me being kicked out of the men's basketball league, I had no idea that officiating would be anywhere in my near future after that vote that kicked me out. But I was on the phone with my older brother, and I just asked him, I said, hey, what are you doing tonight? And he said he was going to a football officials meeting. And I said, can girls do that? And he said, I guess so, sis. Be there at 6 and don't be late. So when I went into that first meeting and seeing these guys actually challenge each other, go over rules, what if scenarios, I was so intrigued that they actually took pride in what they were doing. And then it was a way that I could give back to the community, if you will, but also it kept me competitive. It challenged me because I had such a huge learning curve to learn the game, the spirit of the game, and also the application of the rules. So I just never set out to do it, but I ended up falling in love with it, because as a former athlete, if an official had thought that my game was any less than a Power 5 conference, it would have infuriated me. So that's the mindset I still have to this day, is I just want to give back administer athletic justice and manage my position and let the players dictate the game and the coaches do their job.
That's incredible. When breaking into what would certainly be described as a male-dominated industry, did you face criticism when you first got started?
I can't pinpoint any one thing being said to me like face to face, but I know talking with a lot of my mentors or my crewmates, I would pick up on certain body language or words that would be said, and God blessed me with a gift of discernment, so I would pick up on it and some self-awareness. But I would stay away from the negative, and the guys that I trusted, they would kind of tell me certain things that may be said, but not everything. So I've just learned throughout all of this, and of course going back to high school sports and just growing up in athletics, just the negative, I don't look at it as just a roadblock or entertain it. I just try to turn it into a positive.
It's an incredible mindset. Did you ever have thoughts of stepping away from the game from any of those experiences?
Yeah, I did. My ninth year season in high school, my crew chief wanted me to be on his junior college football crew and asked me to apply. Well, as I was getting ready to apply, he tells me at the end of that year, hey, don't do it because the assignment secretary said he would never hire a woman. So my 10th season, I told the crew that I was going to be giving it up. My two boys were getting older. They were getting into organized sports. My priority is to be at home. They're first. And just the job itself, there's a lot of pressure around it. And for me to try to have to prove me being a woman, I wasn't going to waste my time on that. So if he didn't want me on my merit, that was one thing. And so I told them I was going to be giving it up. I worked a state championship that year, and I thought that was my last game. There was an NFL scout there. Didn't even know these people existed to scout officials. And after that game, he called me up about 4 days later, and he said, there was something in the game that happened. Can you walk me through it? And so I did. I had thrown the flag and the chains had moved. And in the world of football, you don't move the chains when there's a flag on the ground. So I had to reset the chains on the other side of the field. And his message to me was just your field presence is what I noticed. And so no matter what you're doing, right or wrong, someone's always watching how you do it. And when he told me he thought I had what it took to go to the next level, I didn't know what level that was, but he had my attention when he said NFL. That I thought, okay, let me reevaluate. Is this something I truly want to do? Because if I go to the collegiate level, then I'm going to be gone even more overnight. And so after just some prayer and revisiting everything, I took the chance to go on. And then the other time I can remember was college, my first football test in college. To this day, I don't know what I made on it, but I know I bombed it. But I got in so late. I think they hired me in April or May, and I was taking this test in July. But instead of me saying, yeah, I thought, oh, is this a setup? The only girl here? What is this? Because they had told us the format would be one way, and it was completely different. So I got a little overwhelmed that first test. But I just dug deeper, and I told my supervisor officials that would never happen again. And so my rules study went up immensely in talking to mentors. But yeah, those were a couple of times where I was like, I'm giving it up.
I'm glad you didn't, from a personal perspective. Were you ever told bluntly, have you been denied and said, no, you can't be a referee? And how would you respond in those situations?
No, I've never been told that. And I probably would ask why. And then if it was a male, I would say, all right, what would your mother say? Or what would your daughter say? Or what would your wife say? I heard a saying, and I don't know if I'll probably butcher this to death, but whenever you have a male counterpart tell you can't because you're a girl, or the critics, that person, that female that's already out doing stuff, she's not going to listen to you, but your daughters are listening to you, your wives are listening to you, so, and your female counterparts are listening to you.
That is so true and so helpful. Did you have any mentors or influences that helped you stay on track, maybe even open doors for you
Yes.
along your journey?
Absolutely, like so many of us do. And it started first with my parents. back in Pascagoula, the Christian values that they laid for us, the message that they've always sent to us of not depending on anyone for anything, but holding yourself accountable. You make a mistake, learn from it. I tell my kids all the time, you're going to fail, and I want you to fail at something. Doesn't mean you're a failure, but I don't want you to like the taste of it. And that's how I was instilled growing up. And of course, the coaches that I had growing up, and I still talk to several of them. My college coach took me 25 years to tell him he was right, because when he's sitting there making you run and you're ready to throw up, and he's saying, I'm teaching you more about life than I am basketball, how true that is. And so I still have a relationship with him. And then once I got into the world of officiating, yes, there's numerous, from high school level, college level, to this day in the NFL. I still keep in contact with a lot of them. But Gerald Alston, the supervisor of officials of Conference USA that hired me, huge influence on my life that I lean on him still. I just talked to him not too long ago, but he changed the course of my life forever. But their guidance and the walk that they had walked before me, even though my mentors aren't female in a professional setting, I knew I had to trust them. But, off the field, my mom, her sisters, there's been a lot, but it's all helped mold who I am.
That's amazing. What would you share with coaches about the importance of offering them mentorship or going out to seek it?
I say whenever you're that coach and you're doing what you're doing at whatever level, not everybody has the home base that I had. And so kids and athletes will reach out to someone. And I don't care about the walk of life that they've come through, and I'm not being insensitive to that. Those kids, everybody knows right from wrong. But if wrong is the only path that gives them some type of influence, that's what they're going to do. So coaches mentoring kids that don't have a traditional lifestyle and home front, they're going to reach out to those coaches, and them being a mentor to them and loving on them through disciplining with love, or coaching them, is huge for a child's path that they're going to take.
Absolutely. You've certainly gained a lot of attention, very positive, but very also some negative, unfortunate attention on your journey to the NFL. How have you been able to maintain a focus despite all the noise around you?
Yeah. I think it's just best, like being on that field and hearing the boos or the constructive criticism or the negativity. One area, first and foremost, is I'm not on any social media, which is great. I think that's just cowards that sit behind a computer screen and do nothing with themselves, but that's just my personal opinion. And I like I said before, there's going to be enough negative. And if we constantly filter into that, we're going to allow that to be a roadblock in our life instead of a speed bump. And you just have to get over it and just move forward and believe in who you are, not filter into the negative.
Along those same lines, it's so unique to hear someone's not on social media. Let's talk about social media and what can, be such a big source of criticism for so many people, specifically athletes growing up and shaping their lives. What lessons have you learned from handling comments? Certainly you've seen some online, maybe on articles, that coaches on this webinar can share and take home to their athletes.
Yeah, so I'm not on social media, but like you say, there's enough people that'll screenshot, send things to me. My kids are on social media, and they go, Mom, they're talking about you, or whatever it may be. And so I've just tried to tell them, whenever you know the truth about what really has happened, you don't need to defend the negative that they're sending you. So helping them understand, okay, well, Mom blew this call, but Mom wasn't even on that side of the field. If I get blamed for it, there's no need for you to even acknowledge that. So it's more of just a mental toughness that I've learned through coaches and my athletics that I'm trying to instill in my kids too. And I just tell them, if you're going to put anything out there, just make it be positive.
On the same lines, your kids, how have they adapted to your newfound fame, and how have you learned to manage that ever sought balance of work life, family balance?
Because I am their mom. I am not famous. I am not a celebrity. I am a mom first. And I am still the one that disciplines them, take their keys away, cut their cell phone off, or tell the little one to do her homework when she doesn't want to do it. So they know I am the same person I was growing up in Pascagoula, Mississippi, that I am sitting here today. This just shows them a lot of hard work. The golden rule about treat others the way you want to be treated comes back full circle. And so they don't look at me as famous. It is a joke though. My 17-year-old, he's at that age. He's on Instagram and he texts me and goes, "Mom, you're the GOAT." And so I just picked up the phone. I was like, "All right, now why are you saying this, son?" And he said, "Because you and President Biden are the ones that are trending the most, like on Instagram right now or Twitter." And I said, "Well, look, as long as my kids are proud of me, that's all that matters." But I am a mom. And I will tell you this too. The Super Bowl, my oldest had a game on Saturday. He wasn't going to miss his game, so we were flying him in on Sunday morning, and we did. They moved the game from Saturday to Sunday. And I told him, I said, "You don't have to be at the Super Bowl. You can watch it on TV." I said, "Because this is your time to shine. I've lived that life, but this is their time to shine." And they know I always put them first. So the fame, I think they love it. You know, their buddies and stuff like that, but still in all, they know I'm mom.
That's incredible. Did he end up going to the Super Bowl?
They did. Oh yeah, he did. His coach said that he didn't want him to forever be blaming him that he missed his mom making history. But there was a little bargaining chip. He said, "But I won't make you run or sit if you'll get me a Super Bowl ticket." But you know, that was a joke.
Extra running for him. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, it is Women's History Month right now, and a perfect moment to highlight what you've done for women in your space. You've mentioned before that you didn't really set out to be a role model. You just want to be the best at what you do. Still, do you ever sit back and pinch yourself, realize the impact your story is having on young girls and women all over?
Yeah, I've always said that very message. But because I'm an imperfect person, I've done a lot of things wrong and I probably will do them again. But I just hope I'm getting the important things right. My second year in the NFL, there was a legendary coach that came up to me before the game started and he just shook my hand and he said, "I just want to say thank you." And I said, "For what?" And he said, "For what you're doing." He said, "I've coached in this league for 20 plus years and I have 2 daughters. And because of you, they now think they know more about football than I do. And I've been coaching for this long." When he said that, it just made me realize that this is going to leave a mark. And I want it to be positive for many generations to come, female or young men as well. And I lean on that because I am raising 2 sons and their generation and afterwards, there's going to be a lot of very strong, driven, successful women, and I want them to grow up respecting what she's doing and see her as an equal. I always tell them, if I ever hear that you call your wife up and she's working as hard as you are and you say, "What are you cooking for dinner?" I will find you and I will hurt you, is what I tell them. And then the Super Bowl, right? I mean, that's a big stage. And to me, it was just another game. But afterwards, sitting there, taking in the confetti and just the atmosphere, knowing that my little girl was there. I went and found them after the game. And all of the messages that I've gotten, text messages about my daughter has never watched a game, but we watched the Super Bowl. And every time you were on the screen, she was jumping up and down. And then the numerous interviews that I've done, just hearing some of the feedback that they're hearing about me and just the things that are being said, and even by my own kids. It's a pretty big deal.
Absolutely. Do you have any advice that you can share with the coaches and athletes joining us on goal setting?
Yeah, always make sure they're obtainable goals. Don't put on your 6'7" center that's out there and knowing that he's never really been able to dribble a basketball and tell him he's going to be your point guard. I mean, you got to train him, but make obtainable goals for your players. And yes, you can challenge them in areas that you ultimately know that they're capable of doing it. And then always giving them a piece of positive, because it goes a real long way. Yeah, you got to hammer them. I get it. I mean, that's what we do. And that's where you really see the true grit of a player. But just obtainable goals is what I say. You can dream, they can dream. And my kids dream, and I'll never shatter what they're dreaming, but what are you going to do to help fulfill that dream?
What do you predict the future of women in male sports leagues like the NFL, the NBA? What do you foresee that adapting to, and what advice do you have for those maybe looking to break into new industries?
Yeah, there is a lady on here, Amanda. She's playing in a professional women's league, I believe, in the Boston area. And a lot of people ask about females being in the NFL, and I have no idea. And as long as they're offering full contact sports for women in that arena, then I believe that that's where it will stay. But who's to say there's not going to be a female football player? I know that I never aspired to do that because I know I'd be frail and I would hurt myself. So I just want to say I was smarter that way. But I can tell you there will be more and more women that will come into various roles in the NFL. I'm certain that there will be another female hired in the NFL pretty soon. But do it because you love it. Don't do it for the recognition, because you will do anything for the recognition and step on anybody's toes to get up the ladder of success. But if you're not doing it because you love it and you're prepared for it, you won't remain there. And those toes you step on will be the backside you will kiss on the way down. But as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, then you'll be successful.
That is amazing advice. Just from a personal note, those are the end of our questions, but it's women like you that have set the way for women and girls everywhere, and you and I both have daughters in common. I continuously try to emphasize that she can be anything that she wants to be. So from one mom to another, I just want to thank you for helping break barriers and never accepting no for an answer and paving the way for girls like her. So truly thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I would love to open it up to our attendee questions now moving forward. So the first one, let's scroll through here. When the going got tough, how did you get going?
When the going got tough, all right. That's a good one. I can tell you life is going to be full of tough times, really and truly. And it's just, I often say, or I'm often asked, what motivates you, Sarah? Like, what motivates you? And I have learned that I'm the one that motivates me, and you have to motivate yourself. And if you don't, you need to check yourself at the door. It's how you pick yourself up and keep going in those times. There are going to be many things that will influence and encourage you, but you're the one that has to ultimately motivate yourself. And if it was tough, I would look at myself in the mirror and I go, what can I do to change it to help me be successful? It's just, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and getting the same result. So you just have to make adjustments that will better yourself.
I love that. Next question. What's it like when a male tells you that you missed a call?
He may be right. I'll never tell him he's wrong. If I miss it, I'll just say I didn't see it that way. I'll take a look at it and I'll get back with you. And so I'll go look at film study, and if I've missed it, I'll go to him and say, yeah. I've had a player false start. I popped him my first year, and I popped him my second year, and both times I was wrong. And I told him, I went up to him and I said, because his timing was impeccable. Those tackles, those left tackles, they know the timing. And I just said, you know what? You'll have to fall out of your stance before I call a false start on you. And that's how good he was. But a coach could come and tell me anything he wants, and it doesn't bother me a bit. So I just want to reevaluate, because what he's seeing, I need to see his angle from it, and that just helps me.
We got a note here that says, I was coaching at Vicksburg High School in 2005 when you officiated our game against our crosstown rival, and you flagged me for running on the field after an interception returned for a touchdown. How many coaches have you penalized for running into the end zone during a play?
That is insane, because the only coach I remember flagging was at Puckett High School, and it was an assistant coach. So I need to know who that coach is, because I don't remember flagging him. So the story has been, I've only flagged one coach in my entire life, and that was just because he was standing on the sideline. But that game he's talking about was the hottest that I have ever been in my entire career officiating football. So I was probably delusional when I threw it, if I threw it. But yeah, I just let the coaches coach and the players play. I mean, if they ever cross a line and become personal, then I probably should flag them. or when they just push the limits. But I understand you get in the heat of the moment and you do what you do. Gerald Austin told me one time, because I ran into a coach on the field at Southern Miss, and I didn't flag him, but a couple of other guys said, hey, you should have flagged him. So I talked to Gerald about that, and he said, no, you did the right thing. He said, I ran into one of the coaches, I guess it was Buckus, and he said, I ran back by him, and I pulled my flag out, and he said, hold this. And he kept going, and when he came back, he said, unless you want me to drop this on you, you need to stay on the sideline. So I just have that mentality, like, let the coaches play. And, hey, coach, my bad, you must have been in the middle of the field or something. I don't know. I'll have to see the film on that one to believe it.
Well, he's here at the webinar, so he's not that mad at you. I love it.
Yeah.
How long did it take you from the first time picking up the whistle to get to the NFL?
18 seasons.
Wow.
10 seasons in high school and 7 to 8 in Conference USA, because I had Bailey during that tenure when I was in Conference USA. So the running joke is that I worked 7 or 8, but it was 18 years that it took me.
That's incredible. Let me pull it up. Let's see. Have you been surprised by anything that happens on the field during a game?
No, not at all. They're just competitors, and they may jaw a little bit. It's not as bad as what you really think. I mean, sometimes it's pretty comical, because this day and time, I know probably years ago in the NFL, things were different, but with free agency like it is now, at any given time, that offensive lineman could be against somebody else or be on the same team as one of his, I guess, rivals. But it's not as bad as you think. It's somewhat comical at times.
Speaking of comical stories, I would love to hear the story about why they voted you off the men's basketball team.
Well, I had played in that league for 3 years, and we all know there's those dirty players that you play against at times. And there was these 2 guys, they were brothers, and that 3rd season that I played, they would do everything they could to try to trip me or hurt me, and my teammates started picking up on it. And one of my brothers said, I'll go take care of them. I'm like, no, I've got them. Just give me the ball and I'll take care of it. And so they brought up the vote. And funny story is, they had a vote without a member of our team being there. So I protested the vote. We had a revote. It was a tie. And the Baptist preacher was the tiebreaker. So he asked one of those guys, why don't you want her in the league? And he said, well, because when she posts us up or we post her up, it just feels funny. So I kind of got ahead of myself, and I just made a comment, and I said, you know what? As fast-paced of a game as basketball is, if you get some type of sexual sensation out of it, you don't need to be in this league. So as you can imagine, I said sexual sensation in the Baptist gymnasium, and I got the boot, right? So, and I can say that about Baptist because I was raised Baptist, but that's why I got the boot, because they didn't want me in there. And so I left. I was mad, furious.
For a reason, in the way they're supposed to, the journey it took you on was worth it, you know.
Absolutely. I hug the preacher's neck every time I see him when I go home.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and how did you choose to referee in football versus basketball?
All right, so when I first started in football, of course, it's just a challenge. And I played the game of basketball, and the assignment secretary for Mississippi, he did say, Sarah, don't you want to try like basketball? Because he's probably thinking the path for me to get somewhere else would be a lot quicker than football, and he may have been right. But I did. I tried my hand at officiating basketball, but I found myself more frustrated with the talent that was on the court, and the coaches just holding a bench down, if you will. And so I found myself wanting to coach the players than I did officiate, and I would leave there so agitated, and I just didn't. It didn't fulfill me, and I didn't love doing it, but I did love the game of football and officiating it.
Has any of the heated moments, that happen on the field, have they ever derailed you or shaken you up?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, my rookie year, Detroit at New Orleans, you're only allowed 3 timeouts a half. Well, I called a 4th timeout. That's a no-no. I mean, it was the most embarrassing moment of my entire career. I wanted to crawl underneath the turf. But that being said, years before that, if a team had called a 4th timeout and it was granted by an official, it was a penalty. And I guess after I did that, and then several others have done it since, they changed it back to if you call a fourth timeout, it's a penalty. But communication is so key. And the crews that I've been on, if there's the third timeout, we'll say, hey, White can't call another timeout, they're out. Communication is so key in the success of a team, coaching, or officiating.
There's a question here that says, sometimes you tuck your hair into your hat and other times you let it fly. Are there any rules for either in different places?
All right, so when I got into Conference USA, I wore my hair in a ponytail in high school, at the high school level, and then Gerald hired me and he said, I want you to tuck your hair to blend in. And at the time I was like, well, you hired me knowing that I'm a woman and I have a ponytail, but they didn't have adjustable hats then, the snapbacks. And so I did tuck my hair, and I'm so glad that I did them because he knew, he's walked this before, right? That's where, when you're looking up to your mentor, you listen to their wisdom. And he had walked this path before, and he knows the critics and just what they would say, and he just thought immediately they would stereotype me if they saw a female out there. The NFL did not make me tuck my hair. But as there was more and more attention to females wanting to get into officiating, but they were starting to wear their hair down their back or in a bun underneath the fitted cap, they just said, Sarah, would you wear your hair out? And I said, the only way I'll wear it out is if it's a snapback, so I can wear it in a ponytail. That season, they sent me adjustable hats. And I had thought about doing it during the middle of the season, but then I said, if I did that, then the attention would be on me. Why am I now doing that the middle of the season? And I'm pretty superstitious, and I was having a good year that year, and I didn't want to change up anything. But with 2020 and everything with diversity and inclusion, social injustice, the timing was just right. And the NFL said, we're only going to send you the snapbacks this year. We want you to wear your hair out. And so just timing's everything, and that's why I wear it out. It feels a lot more natural that way than in a big old bun up underneath that hat, but that's why. So you'll see me now for the rest of my career wearing my hair out.
I'm happy for you and grateful that you get to have that freedom, for sure. Let's see what else. Our attendees would love to know how you stay in shape when you're out there with all those athletes. I know it matters to keep up and to feel healthy. Share your advice on that.
Yeah, I am thankful for genetics. That definitely helps when I'm pushing 50 now. But I did it like everybody. I mean, in my early years, I would play sports to stay in shape, or I'd run sprints, do whatever outside. I hate running long distance, but I would do somewhat of interval training for cardio. And I would always go to the gym and lift weights. And that's what I do now. I have a trainer that I meet with at least 3 days a week. And then I just do treadmill. I just walk on the treadmill and do the Stairmaster, but anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and try to eat healthy. That's the big thing, but I'm not opposed to a glass of wine for sure.
Especially this year. Can you share maybe a funny story about a professional player trying to plead their case after a penalty?
Yeah, they all somewhat try to plead their case, or you can tell the ones when they know they're guilty, like they got caught or whatever. But I can't name specifically, but there was a play, and one of the guys, he just looked at me and he said, you need some, I can't say it, beep, glasses. And I just looked at him and I said, well, where did I find those? I mean, I've never heard of that kind of glasses. Where do I get those? And he just walked off. They come up to you and they know, I'll tell you, a player walked right by me and he said, you're terrible. And I said, me? And he just kept going. And then when he saw me again, he just said, you redeemed yourself. I said, good. And we just kept, it's like we never even acknowledged each other. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
That's amazing. Maybe some books that you might recommend to coaches and anyone who is looking up to you for advice in their life.
I never was a big reader, and I'm not much one of that now. Now it's the rule book, but Tony Dungy's book's really good, really good. Chris Herron was a former star basketball player out of Boston, Massachusetts area. I believe, I should know where his hometown is, but Falls River, I believe. And his story is unbelievable. Became an addict, died, married, in and out of rehab, and just his message is unbelievable. And that's from, Tony Dungy didn't have just a smooth ride either. I mean, he had to go through a lot of adversity and had a lot of success. But Chris Herron did have a lot of success and is now, but his story, I think, would resonate greatly with a lot of coaches, and especially this day and time with athletes.
Do you find it frustrating that other women have not entered the field? And what are first steps women can take to enter? And how would you encourage those women that would be first in their respective fields as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wouldn't define it as frustrated that there weren't. I just think it's taking that chance and that risk on stepping out there when it's not the norm. And I just fall back on it too, what I said earlier about getting into any profession that's male dominated, doing it for the right reasons, believing in yourself. And now the day that they announced me being hired in Conference USA, they had never had a female applicant to apply for football officiating in Conference USA before. And that day they had 4. And I don't know what the number is now on the collegiate level of females officiating. I know it's got to be in the hundreds. And there are several that are in the developmental program of the NFL. So I would say frustrated, but maybe more like, why not? Like, why aren't you? But being in this profession, you got to do it because you love it.
I love that. Someone here, Caitlin, asked, have you ever considered writing a book about your life?
Yeah, Catherine, are you an author? Yeah, that's asked of me a lot, and I'll keep journals and things like that, but it wasn't for those purposes of a book by any means. But when people start asking me those questions, then of course there's more of a message. Right now I can't do a tell-all because I would probably be fired, but and not in a negative way. I would want to just mention people's names, and I can't do that. But there's such a message that I can send in other areas that could be motivational or whatever. So yeah, I've thought about it, and I'm sure that that'll happen.
And then I think we have time for a few more questions. We are wrapping up shortly. What are some things that you do to maintain a positive mindset when things aren't going as planned?
I say my prayers every night and every morning, and just thankful for everything I have. And surround myself with positive people. If someone's not bringing value to my life or my children's life, I don't want them around me. And I've learned that. It's taken me some time to learn that. But 2020 was such a tough year, right? I mean, for everybody. And I'm a divorced mother with 3 kids. And it's just 2020 challenged me. And all the speaking engagements that we had lined up, everything just canceled. And the further that it got into the pandemic, then are we even going to have a season? And those are my 2 livelihoods. Like, what am I going to do? And for about 3 days in June, I'm telling you, I wasn't myself. And I remember telling my parents, hey, I'm not in a good place. Why can't people just wear a mask? Like, just do it like a science project. Just like see before, during, and after. Just try it. Just everybody try it. I was frustrated. But one little thing that happened, and that an app on my phone stopped working, and I had to go to the bank. And when I went to the bank, the message, the news that they told me, and then I went and saw my CPA, and the dominoes just started falling in the right direction. So I had to lean on my faith a lot during 2020, as I know many of us have. But that is the only way that I'm able to stay positive, is because ultimately it's out of my control anyway. And when the good Lord knew that I was going to be working the Super Bowl. I didn't, and I couldn't see it then. But I just told him, I said, I won't ever challenge you like I did before. But it's just, I'm telling you, my faith and just praying daily and nightly for everything I've been blessed with.
It's wonderful advice. Zach Gatwood, our football category manager here at BSN Sports, just asked, what's your next life goal? Now that you've made it to the pinnacle, what's next on your to-do list?
Yeah, I don't want to be a one and done when it comes to the Super Bowl, but it's not that if I get the call for the Super Bowl that's the next life goal that I want. I want to rank out number 1 at my position every time I get the chance to work. I don't want to be in a tier 3 or lose sight of where I am. I'm going to prepare and starting to prepare for season 7, just like I did season 6. So that's just it, just to rank number 1 and retire one day. I know that the guys are 60 out there running around, and if y'all hear something in the background, I've got yard people doing all kind of stuff, and I didn't know they were going to be at this window. But yeah, I know that there's guys out there that are in their 60s. I don't know what it'll look like for a 60-something-year-old woman to be running around out on a football field. I mean, I hope I'm in good enough shape to be able to do it. But, at some point, the best question that was asked of it, and this goes to what he asked, is what's the next occupation? And I've been in the workforce my entire life. So my hat off to all those stay-at-home moms. That's a 24/7 occupation. And maybe I would try my hand at being just a stay-at-home mom or grandmom at that time. I don't know.
That's wonderful. We are so grateful that right now you are doing this, sharing your wisdom, and that you've achieved what you've achieved. We're incredibly grateful that you got to speak with us and shared it with us today. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being you and doing all that you do. And we appreciate your time very much, and appreciate all the attendees for tuning in and asking such interactive, dynamic questions as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, thank you to BSN and everybody, the whole entire team. Hoping that we can partner doing many other things. And to all of you coaches and administrators, I sincerely mean it. I wish y'all could still paddle, and maybe some of you still do behind closed doors, but in any event, the discipline that you are giving to those children, you have more time with them actually than their parents do. So keep doing what you're doing and love on them when they need to be loved on. But thank you for what you do. Thank you
so much, Sarah. Best of luck. We're cheering for you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.